Imagine waking up tomorrow, only to discover that the person you keep trying to forget appears again, not in your phone, not in your memories, but standing directly in front of you. What if I told you that some meetings are too precise to dismiss as coincidence? Stay with me, because by the end of this journey, you may realize that what you've been calling bad luck, timing, or even obsession might actually be a language you've never learned to read. And here's my question for you. Have you ever met someone who felt strangely familiar, even though you'd never seen them before? Tell me in the comments with just one word, yes or no. You may be surprised by how many people share the same experience. Now let us begin. The first sign is repetition. It begins so quietly that most people dismiss it without a second thought. You encounter the same person in places where there is no logical reason your paths should cross. A crowded cafe, a bookstore, an airport terminal, a random street on the opposite side of the city, or an event neither of you planned to attend. At first, it seems like nothing more than coincidence. After all, strange coincidences happen every day. But when the pattern continues, something deeper begins to stir within you. It is not merely the repeated appearance of the person that captures your attention. It is the strange feeling that accompanies each encounter. It is as though reality is gently tapping on your shoulder, inviting you to notice what your busy mind has ignored. The human mind is trained to search for obvious explanations. It prefers statistics over mystery and logic over intuition. Yet there are moments when reason alone cannot explain why a particular face continues to emerge in the story of your life. These moments create an inner tension, a quiet conflict between what you can explain and what you can only feel. That tension deserves attention because the deepest truths often arrive disguised as ordinary events repeated with extraordinary precision. Repetition is rarely about the other person alone. More often, it reflects something unfinished within yourself. Life has an unusual way of presenting the same lesson in different forms until it is understood. Sometimes the person who repeatedly appears is not entering your life to complete your story, but to reveal a chapter you have avoided reading. Their presence becomes a mirror rather than a destination. They reflect fears you never admitted, hopes you buried beneath disappointment, and qualities within yourself that have remained hidden in the shadows of your personality. Perhaps you notice that every meeting with this person awakens emotions that surprise you. Maybe you become unusually calm, unexpectedly anxious, deeply inspired, or strangely uncomfortable. These reactions are important because they reveal that the encounter is touching something far older than the moment itself. Beneath every powerful emotion lies a forgotten part of your inner world asking to be seen. The repeated meetings are not forcing a relationship into existence. They are inviting awareness. They ask whether you are willing to look beyond appearances and discover what your own soul is trying to communicate. Many people make the mistake of believing repetition guarantees romance. It does not. Repeated encounters are not promises that two people are destined to spend their lives together. They are invitations to pay closer attention. Sometimes the lesson leads to love, but other times it leads to wisdom, healing, forgiveness, or the courage to become someone entirely different. The true significance of repetition is not found in how often another person appears before your eyes, but in how consistently their presence transforms the landscape of your inner life. When every encounter leaves you seeing yourself more clearly than before, the pattern has already fulfilled its deepest purpose, whether the relationship lasts a lifetime or only a single unforgettable season. The second sign is discomfort, and it is often the most misunderstood of all. People are taught to believe that a destined connection should feel immediately easy, peaceful, and free of tension. Yet the encounters that change us most profoundly rarely arrive wrapped in comfort. They disturb the carefully arranged structure of our inner world. They expose insecurities we thought we had conquered, awaken fears we believed were buried, and challenge the image we have spent years creating for others and for ourselves. The strange truth is that a person can feel deeply important precisely because they unsettle us. This discomfort is not always dramatic. Sometimes it appears as nervousness without a clear reason. Sometimes it is the feeling of being unusually seen, as though the other person notices parts of you that usually remain hidden. You may find yourself speaking more honestly than intended, questioning decisions that once felt certain, or becoming aware of habits that no longer fit the person you are becoming. Such reactions can be confusing because they do not match the popular fantasy of effortless attraction, yet they often signal that the connection is reaching beneath the surface of personality and touching something much deeper. A powerful relationship acts like a mirror. It reflects not only your strengths but also your unfinished work. If you fear abandonment, that fear may become visible. If you struggle with vulnerability, you may suddenly notice how carefully you protect yourself. If you have built your identity around control, the connection may challenge that control in unexpected ways. The discomfort arises because the mind prefers the familiar, even when the familiar is limiting. Growth requires stepping beyond old patterns, and the soul often recognizes that necessity before the conscious mind is ready to accept it. Consider how iron is transformed in fire. The heat does not destroy the metal, it reshapes it. In a similar way, meaningful connections often create emotional heat. They force hidden beliefs to the surface and reveal where healing is still needed. This is why some of the most significant people in our lives arrive during periods of uncertainty. Their presence becomes a catalyst, accelerating changes that were already waiting to happen. The important distinction is that discomfort is not the same as harm. A connection that consistently damages your well-being, violates your boundaries, or leaves you feeling unsafe is not a sign of destiny. Transformative discomfort, by contrast, pushes you toward greater honesty, self-awareness, and emotional maturity. It may be challenging, but it ultimately invites you to become more fully yourself, rather than less. When someone enters your life and quietly dismantles the masks you no longer need, the unease you feel may be the sound of an old identity beginning to crack open. The third sign is impossible timing. It often arrives when life appears to be moving in the opposite direction of your hopes. You meet someone just after a painful loss, during a period of uncertainty, while rebuilding your career, recovering from disappointment, or at a moment when you have convinced yourself that relationships are the last thing you need. From the perspective of logic, it feels inconvenient. You tell yourself, this couldn't have happened at a worse time. Yet it is precisely these moments of instability that create space for profound change. When everything is predictable, the mind clings to familiar routines. But when life begins to shift beneath your feet, your defenses weaken and you become more open to experiences that once would have passed unnoticed. Many people believe that the perfect relationship must arrive when every part of life is perfectly organized. They imagine that once they have achieved success, healed every wound and solved every problem, then the right person will appear. Reality rarely follows such neat expectations. Human beings are not transformed during seasons of complete certainty. They grow through moments that force them to question who they are and what truly matters. A meaningful connection often enters during these periods, not because life has become easier, but because the soul has become more willing to listen. There is something remarkable about meeting someone while standing at a crossroads. The person may not solve your problems or remove your struggles. Instead, their presence changes the way you experience those struggles. Conversations begin to carry unexpected depth. Ordinary moments feel unusually significant. Even silence can feel different, as though something invisible has shifted within you. The external circumstances may remain difficult, yet your inner world begins to reorganize itself around new possibilities. This transformation is subtle, but it is often more powerful than any dramatic event. Sometimes impossible timing is necessary because certain parts of your identity must first fall apart. We spend years building beliefs about ourselves, what we deserve, what we fear, and what we think love should look like. Those beliefs become walls that protect us, but they also limit us. Life has an unusual way of loosening those walls before introducing someone capable of helping us see beyond them. What feels like bad timing from the outside may actually be perfect timing for inner growth. This does not mean every unexpected meeting is a sign of destiny, nor does it mean every difficult season is preparing you for romance. Rather, it suggests that life's most meaningful encounters rarely wait for ideal conditions. They arrive when they have the greatest potential to awaken something sleeping within you. Looking back, many people realize that if they had met the same person a year earlier or a year later, neither would have been ready to recognize the significance of the encounter. Sometimes the moment itself is part of the message. The circumstances that seem most inconvenient become the very conditions that allow two lives to intersect in a way that changes them both forever. The fourth sign is a silence that speaks louder than conversation. In a world that constantly celebrates endless communication, many people believe that the strength of a connection is measured by how many hours two people can spend talking. They assume that if every moment is filled with exciting conversations, constant messages, and effortless jokes, then the relationship must be meaningful. Yet the deepest human connections often reveal themselves in an entirely different way. They create a space where silence is not awkward, empty, or uncomfortable. Instead, it feels alive, peaceful, and deeply reassuring. It is the kind of silence that asks for nothing because it already contains understanding. Most of us spend our lives performing without realizing it. We carefully choose our words, adjust our behavior to fit expectations, and present versions of ourselves that we hope others will accept. Every conversation becomes a subtle effort to be understood, admired, or appreciated. This constant performance can be exhausting, even when we are unaware of it. Then, unexpectedly, someone enters our life in whose presence that performance begins to dissolve. You no longer feel the need to fill every quiet moment with words. You stop searching for the perfect response or worrying about how you appear. The silence between you no longer feels like a problem waiting to be solved. It becomes a place where both people can simply exist without pretending. This kind of silence is powerful because it reflects a deeper level of trust. It suggests that your value is no longer dependent on your ability to entertain, impress, or explain yourself. You begin to realize that genuine connection is not built only through conversation, but through presence. Presence is the quiet assurance that someone can sit beside you without demanding that you become anyone other than who you are. In those moments, communication moves beyond language. A shared glance, a peaceful walk, or simply watching the rain together can express more than hours of carefully chosen sentences. There is also another reason this silence feels significant. When the mind becomes quiet, the deeper parts of our inner world begin to emerge. Constant noise often distracts us from our own thoughts and emotions. Silence removes that distraction. In the company of the right person, you may suddenly become aware of feelings you have ignored for years. Old fears, forgotten dreams, and hidden hopes rise gently to the surface, not because the other person is forcing them into view, but because their presence creates an atmosphere where honesty becomes possible. The connection does not fill your mind with more noise. It allows the unnecessary noise to fade away. This should not be confused with emotional distance or the inability to communicate. Healthy silence exists alongside openness, respect, and genuine conversation when needed. It is not avoidance, but comfort. It is the quiet confidence that understanding does not always require explanation. When two people can share peaceful silence without feeling pressured to prove their worth, they have entered a space where authenticity begins to replace performance, and where the deepest conversations often take place without a single word being spoken. If you're finding value in this message, take a moment to like this video, subscribe, and share it with someone who has been questioning the strange patterns in their own life. Sometimes one insight arrives exactly when someone needs it most. The fifth sign is that your dreams begin to change. Not simply the dreams you have while sleeping, but the entire symbolic landscape of your inner world. Most people dismiss dreams as random images created by the mind, fragments of memory stitched together without meaning. Yet there are times when dreams become unusually vivid, emotionally charged, and impossible to forget. They linger long after you wake, leaving behind a feeling that something important has been revealed, even if its meaning remains hidden. These dreams may not always feature the person you have met. Instead, they often speak through symbols that seem unrelated at first glance, but carry a deeper emotional truth. You might dream of walking through an unfamiliar house with countless locked rooms, only to discover that one of them suddenly opens. You may find yourself crossing a bridge that once seemed broken, climbing a mountain that appeared impossible to reach, or standing before a vast ocean whose calm waters invite rather than frighten you. Perhaps you repeatedly encounter children, ancient trees, forgotten roads, birds taking flight, or a sunrise after a long night. These images are rarely accidental. They often reflect changes taking place beneath the surface of conscious awareness. While the rational mind focuses on daily responsibilities and immediate concerns, the deeper mind communicates through symbols, revealing movements of the soul that ordinary language cannot fully express. A meaningful connection often awakens this symbolic world because it stirs parts of your personality that have remained silent for years. The meeting does not merely affect your emotions during the day, it continues its work while you sleep. Dreams become a private conversation between your conscious life and the deeper layers of your being. They reveal hidden fears asking to be acknowledged, forgotten strengths waiting to emerge, and possibilities that your waking mind has not yet considered. You may notice that these dreams leave you feeling peaceful, curious, or even unsettled, but they almost always carry a sense of significance that is difficult to ignore. What makes these dreams remarkable is not their ability to predict the future, but their ability to reveal the present. They illuminate what is changing within you right now. A locked door opening may symbolize emotional barriers beginning to dissolve. A long journey through a forest may reflect your movement through uncertainty toward greater understanding. Clear water may represent emotional clarity after years of confusion, while a rising sun can suggest the quiet birth of hope after a long period of darkness. The images themselves are less important than the emotional transformation they express. Many people search outside themselves for signs that a relationship is meant to be, overlooking the subtle messages already unfolding within. Dreams remind us that the deepest guidance often arises from the inner world before it becomes visible in the outer one. They encourage patience rather than certainty, reflection rather than impulsive conclusions. When your dreams begin to shift in ways that mirror a growing sense of inner transformation, they may be revealing that the connection has already begun its most important work, not by changing your future overnight, but by quietly reshaping the person you are becoming from the inside out. The sixth sign is that your priorities begin to change in ways you never expected. At first, the shift is so subtle that you hardly notice it. The things that once consumed your thoughts slowly lose their grip on your attention. You become less interested in proving yourself to people who never truly saw you, less concerned with winning every argument, and less driven by the constant need for approval. What once felt urgent begins to seem strangely unimportant. This transformation does not happen because another person has completed you or solved your problems. It happens because their presence has awakened a deeper awareness of what genuinely deserves your energy. Most people spend years chasing external validation without realizing it. They measure their worth through achievements, social recognition, possessions, or the opinions of others. These pursuits are not inherently wrong, but they often become substitutes for something more meaningful. A profound connection has a remarkable way of exposing this illusion. It quietly asks whether the life you have been building truly reflects the person you are beneath your ambitions and fears. Suddenly, goals that once seemed essential no longer provide the same satisfaction. You begin searching for experiences that nourish your spirit rather than merely impress those around you. This change often extends far beyond relationships. You may discover yourself spending more time with family, reconnecting with forgotten passions, or appreciating moments of silence that you once tried to escape. Conversations become more important than appearances. Authenticity becomes more valuable than perfection. Instead of asking how successful you look, you begin asking whether your choices align with your deepest values. These questions arise naturally because a meaningful connection encourages you to examine your life from the inside rather than through the eyes of the world. Another noticeable shift is the way you respond to conflict and uncertainty. Before, you may have felt compelled to control every outcome, fearing that any mistake would diminish your worth. As your priorities change, that fear gradually loses its power. You become more willing to accept uncertainty because you realize that growth cannot be forced into a predictable pattern. Patience begins replacing urgency, and understanding becomes more important than being right. This does not mean you become passive or lose your ambition. Rather, your ambition starts serving a deeper purpose, one rooted in fulfillment instead of endless comparison. Perhaps the most surprising aspect of this transformation is that it often happens without conscious effort. You do not wake up one morning and decide to become a different person. The change unfolds gradually through countless small moments of reflection, honesty, and emotional awakening. Looking back, you realize that your values have quietly rearranged themselves. The connection did not demand that you abandon your dreams. It encouraged you to pursue dreams that genuinely belong to you rather than those inherited from expectations or fear. When your priorities begin to reflect your authentic self instead of your public image, you are witnessing one of the clearest signs of inner transformation. It is in this quiet reordering of values that the deepest relationships reveal their true purpose, not by changing the world around you first, but by changing the way you choose to live within it. The seventh sign is distance, and few experiences confuse the heart more than this one. Most people assume that if two people are truly meant to be together, life should naturally keep them close. They believe that destiny always removes obstacles, shortens the miles, and makes every path smooth. Yet, some of the most meaningful connections are marked not by constant closeness, but by unexpected separation. Circumstances change, responsibilities arise, opportunities appear in different places, or life simply carries each person along separate roads for a time. At first, this distance feels like a contradiction. If the connection is genuine, why would it be interrupted? The answer often lies in understanding that growth cannot always happen side by side. When two people meet at a significant moment in their lives, they often awaken qualities in each other that have been waiting to emerge. But awakening is only the beginning. Those qualities must be developed through individual experience. Courage must be tested in solitude. Wisdom must be earned through personal challenges. Confidence must grow from facing life without constantly leaning on another person. If both individuals remain dependent on the comfort of the connection, they may never become the people they are capable of becoming. Distance, though painful, creates the space where inner strength begins to take root. This separation is not simply about physical miles. It can also be emotional or symbolic. There are seasons when two people care deeply for one another, yet each is carrying burdens that cannot be shared or solved by someone else. One may be healing from old wounds, rebuilding a career, caring for family, or confronting fears that require personal reflection. During these times, forcing the relationship to progress can create frustration rather than harmony. Life sometimes asks each person to complete an inner journey before they are truly ready to walk together. Many misunderstand distance because they measure love by constant presence. They believe that frequent communication alone proves the value of a relationship. Yet there are connections that remain deeply meaningful despite long periods of silence. This does not happen because the bond survives on hope alone, but because it has already left a lasting imprint on both lives. The lessons learned, the self-awareness gained, and the personal transformation sparked by the encounter continue unfolding even when the other person is absent. Of course, not every separation carries hidden meaning. Some relationships end because they have fulfilled their purpose, and accepting that truth is part of emotional maturity. The mistake is believing that every ending represents failure or that every distance should be resisted at all costs. Sometimes life creates space not to punish the heart, but to prepare it. Just as a seed develops beneath the soil long before anyone sees the first signs of growth, human transformation often happens in quiet, unseen seasons. What appears to be emptiness from the outside may actually be the period in which character, resilience, and clarity are being formed, allowing each person to become someone the future version of the relationship could truly recognize and appreciate. So, If you have been searching for undeniable proof that someone is meant to be in your life, perhaps you have been looking in the wrong direction. The universe rarely announces its intentions with certainty. It speaks through quiet patterns, unexpected encounters, moments of discomfort, meaningful silence, changing dreams, shifting priorities, seasons of distance, and above all, the person you are gradually becoming. These are not commands to chase someone or reasons to ignore wisdom. They are invitations to become more aware of yourself and the unseen forces shaping your journey. The greatest mistake we can make is believing that destiny is about finding the perfect person. In truth, every meaningful connection first asks us to become more honest, more courageous, and more authentic. Some people arrive to stay, while others arrive only long enough to awaken a part of you that had been asleep for years. Their purpose is not measured by how long they remain, but by how deeply they transform the person you become. So the next time life places someone unexpectedly in your path, resist the urge to immediately ask, "Are they the one?" Instead, ask a quieter and far more powerful question. What is this connection teaching me about myself? That single question has the power to reveal more than endless searching ever could. Perhaps the universe has never been trying to lead you toward another person alone. Perhaps it has been guiding you step by step toward the version of yourself that is finally ready to recognize genuine love, meaningful purpose, and lasting peace. If this message resonated with you, let me know in the comments which of these 8 signs you've experienced. And if you found value in this journey, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and share it with someone who may need this reminder today. Until next time, keep your eyes open, your mind curious, and your heart awake, because the most important signs are often the quietest ones.